am one of your hosts, George Tarrant, alongside the man, the myth, the body count himself, Mr. Travis Croft. How are you?
I am fine and dandy, and I'm going to have to go ahead and correct you. I think it's 128.
It is 128. Last
yes.
week's was 127.
So it's an even more impressive number. We are watching. Ignore the title at the top of the page if it says "Invasion of the Body Snatchers." In fact, Vibes Week. It's the vibe. It's Marbo. It's the Constitution. Summer has sort of arrived in Melbourne this week. We had the usual 4 seasons in one day yesterday, and then again today, just in case we missed it. We had another power outage up at your place, hence we're coming to you 24 hours later than we normally would have, because, as you said, God just doesn't seem to have a taste for this show.
No, it really doesn't, and it's just like every time it's like, okay, it's Wednesday. What shit are we gonna deal with today?
Locusts, freaking. There are protesters around at the moment, but they usually say.
What I say now is bring it on with a show that God can't cancel.
So just in case, we will apologize if there are any audio issues this week. I can't say that. I know I'm having some issues with my hearing. George might have been replaced by a replicant during the week.
It's going to be one funny. 0. one.
We're going to give him the Voight Kampf test on air, so that'll be exciting. But if there's any audio,
that would actually be kind of hilarious.
It would be. It's any audio issues, we do apologize. We'll power on in spite of them, because, well, that's what we do for you guys.
There we go. The things are all updated now. So, boom. Okay, well, let's get straight on because we've got a packed show because I decided to smash through some shit. And we're finally going to talk about Eternals. And, of course, we've got the latest Marvel TV offering of Hawkeye, episodes 1 and 2 at the very least. Have you watched episode 3, Travis?
I haven't had a chance to watch 3 because it only came out last night. And I had work to do today.
We're on the air, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't have any internet, and I've been able to watch episode 3, but he hasn't.
You also only just remembered to watch the freaking Chain film last night as well. If the God hadn't interrupted, we would have been hearing me talking about vibes alone. So,
because we would have just delayed that, and then I would have had to review some terrible rom-com. Thanks to Michelle.
Yes. Michelle is a bad movie machine who had a number of excellent suggestions that would come in handy. So we don't have to exercise them, so you get to hear us both talk about vibes. But no, I've only watched the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye. It's fine. But should we just move on? You got a pack show. Let's not waste time.
Let's not waste time.
It's going to be all Marvel all the time to start with, I think. Because I think we've got at least 3 Marvel properties to talk about today. Because I just watched Venom Carnage this week. Have you watched that yet?
Not yet.
I'll give you some early.
On my watch list.
Spoiler-free impressions on that one. But we can come back. We can loop back in on that one. But not the Eternals, just Eternals.
Eternals. Yes.
There's no the.
So let's get straight into that, shall we?
Let's. I saw this on Saturday night. I apologize. It's taken a while. I know it's been out for a while in various places.
That's all right. Nobody does.
No one does care for it. But I've actually avoided reviews of this for the last couple of months because it came out a couple of months ago. It was overseas and we were still in lockdown.
Yeah, I think it is.
But I had someone promise to take me to see it for my birthday, which was last week, so I had to hang on. And it was really weird hanging on because it's a bit like. I don't think this is going to be very good, but I'm desperately curious to see it. And so it was kind of not like I was anticipating it because I was really wanted to see it. Like when Endgame came out, you're like, I can't wait to see what happens. This was like how bad is this going to be? And the answer is, not that bad, I guess. You gave some early thoughts on it, I think, a week or 2 ago, and you sort of was giving the indication you felt like maybe it should have been a TV show or a mini-series.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like I still feel, having thought about it, it wastes the time that it has. It doesn't really do much. It kind of feels like a flick book of if you know the Eternals, then you can kind of go, oh, it's that, oh, it's that, it's reference to that, it's reference to that, but there's never any meat on any of the relationship bones, so to speak. Like the character Droog, he's like, he's an interesting character, the little bits that we get him, but there's no connective tissue. He seems just, pardon the pun, eternally disparate from the rest of the Eternals, and there's feels like there should be tons of backstory and history between them as they've gone through the ages, but we never see any of that, so it's kind of hard to get invested in it. But I was curious about it, and the same with the romance between Gemma Chan and Richard Madden, who's, what was it? What were their characters' names?
Cersei and Icarus.
Cersei, yes. It's like, okay, this is supposed to be some kind of tragic romance of the ages kind of thing, but you don't really, it doesn't really give you an opportunity to show it.
So some background here for people who haven't been living under a rock, if you're not a fan of the MCU, or the Eternals is the saga of the Eternals, a race of immortal beings who lived on Earth and shaped its history and civilizations. This is an MCU film. It is a bunch of characters who are completely brand spanking new to the MCU, and not one previously introduced MCU character appears in the film at any one time. There are mentions of characters, particularly Thanos, who we've heard about a fair bit, but these are all completely new. This film is directed by Chloe Zhao, who won the Academy Award this year for Best Director, I think it was, for Nomadland, a film I did not like very much. I thought it was beautiful but boring. And you know what? That kind of describes this film too. Chloe Zhao has a very distinct visual style, and she likes broad, wide open spaces. So there are certain scenes with that were shot in West Dakota or South Dakota or something. And
just
they are very
just reaching out.
The expanse of the American prairies kind of thing is very Chloe Zhao. If you've seen Nomadland, you know she the way she shoots the American West in that film, it's almost pornographic. It's so beautiful. In the same sort of thing, she likes those wide open space shots, and she likes landscapes. But personally, I kind of found myself agreeing with you a little bit. Greatly actually, in the sense that this film has a lot of good ideas and a lot of potential. But in the end, it doesn't coalesce into anything. Doesn't coalesce into something worth seeing, or it was interesting enough to carry me for the 2-hour, 36-minute runtime. You know what I think this film is? This is the Last Jedi of the MCU. They've decided we want to go out and we want to
see where you're going with that.
I'm going to go out and they're going to get somebody who, we're doing the one thing again and again, and that's very successful. But now we want to do something different. We're going to go out and get an auteur cinema filmmaker, Chloe Zhao. Maybe she's not on the level but of some other auteurs in the game, but she is a art house director and Academy Award winner. So we get ourselves an auteur filmmaker, and just give her carte blanche to do whatever she wants. And that's kind of what we've done here, and they have done something different. But I don't think they've, much like in The Last Jedi, where Rian Johnson, I know you and I differ on this, Rian Johnson just didn't understand the source material well enough, or care about the source material well enough, or care about the fans, or care about anything other than his creative vision, to actually make a film that was entertaining, and also, I think, in that case, probably also, fitted into the universe he was now taking part in. Chloe Zhao, not quite the same, but the film feels empty. I have a number of problems with it. So basic plot of a film is we have the Eternals. They have been plonked here on Earth by the Celestials. They are sort of guardians of the human race, but only in very specific circumstances. They are here to defend the human race from the Deviants, which are a big species of monsters who were also created by the Celestials, but were a failed experiment or something like that. And
that's revealed later on.
But they are there to kill or protect humans from the Deviants, and the Deviants only. They have a prime directive of sorts where they're not supposed to interfere otherwise, but they kind of do anyway. The plot never really bothers to explain. The deviants look fucking awful. They look awful. Like the special effects in this, a lot of the special effects are really lame. I know it's a very distinctive style, and maybe some people like it, but I didn't. I thought they looked really shitty. It looked like CGI monsters, and I know they are, but like
they look like the similar kind of CGI that we got in The Mummy Returns when they did that weird pseudomorph of The Rock as the Scorpion King. And it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do here, but you didn't pull it off, I'm afraid.
Maybe it would have been cool if they were dinosaurs, because that would deviants were dinosaurs, and that would have been kind of interesting. But
they could have pulled something there. I don't know. At the same time, no, go on.
As I say, I haven't read the comic books, so I don't know what. And I know they've taken. I did read my Marvel Encyclopedia, which is on the bookshelf behind me, entry about the Eternal, and they've taken quite a few liberties for story as is. So, it's they really put me off from the start. Each of the Eternals, and there are 10 of them, I think, have each got is it 10? Something like that. A lot of them. They have. This is how interested in the characters I was. They each had a unique power of sorts. So we have Cersei, who is played by Gemma Chan, who you mentioned earlier, is our protagonist. She can turn things into things. That's pretty much it. She can turn stuff into other things.
Is it it's inorganic stuff in organic stuff? I think.
I guess so. It's never really fully explained, but that's kind of her power. We have Richard Madden, who qualifies for the Travis role, which is there a square-jawed, handsome man starring in this film who I've never heard of? Yes, he must have been on Game of Thrones. And
in fact, we have two Game of Thrones.
We have, so you do. And I had no idea who either of them were, so I was like, okay, they must be on Game of Thrones. And I think it's kind of ironic that the character he plays Icarus, who did have a relationship with Cersei, and I think that's kind of Game of Thrones fans have been going, that's a bit ironic, isn't it? I'm like, I don't really know, but I'll take your word for it. He plays the faux Superman character who can fly and shoots lasers with his eyes. We have Angelina Jolie as Fina, who is like the Wonder Woman proxy, who is a warrior, if you will. Salma Hayek as Ajak, and she's definitely there.
Yes.
Kamala. She's a healer. That's right. She can heal. That's right. She's also the nominal leader of the group for the first 7,000 years or so. Kamal Nanjiani plays Kingo, who can shoot lasers out of his hands. Sprite, played by Leah McHugh, can create mirages, I guess, illusions. Yeah. Brian Tyree Henry plays Fastos, who is an engineer of sorts and creates engineering bizzo. Lauren Ridloff as Makari, who is basically the Flash, and Barry Keoghan, as I pronounce it, Keoghan, plays Droog, who you said can control minds, and we have Ma Dong-seok as Gilgamesh, who is kind of a Hulk kind of character. He's strong. And so they are kind of an alternative Justice League, and you could look at it through that lens as a critique of a deconstruction of the Justice League, and we haven't seen that before, have we? Invincible did it a lot better. So you can see right there's a lot of characters, and George have forgotten some of them. What I was most afraid of. Sorry, go on. So what I was most afraid of from this film was, and I've had this conversation on the show a few times, is I think oftentimes studios put the politics first, and then they make the film. And I go, we want a film that's going to be diverse, so we're going to hire, multiracial, multi-gendered, multi-abled, many different sexualities into a film, into our characters, and then they go and they put that recipe, and they give that to the writer and go, write me a film that does that. And I know somebody who's going to be listening who's going to go, that's not how these things work. But anyway, and I think that sometimes when they don't actually make a film that serves the story, they make the film that serves the politics, if that makes sense. And I was afraid this was going to be one of those, in the sense it was like, it does have that rainbow cast of different. We have Lauren Ridloff in here, who's actually a deaf actor, and she plays a deaf character. We have Brian Festos is a gay character in the film. He is married to a man, has a family. We have, Kamal Nanjiani and Selma Hayek, people of color, men, women, all this sort of thing. And I don't know about Leah McHugh. Someone said they thought she might be trans, but don't know if she is. I haven't been able to find any evidence that she is, so don't know. But I would certainly say she's not said she is, but I mean, one could see her as kind of a intersex type character.
But I mean, she plays Sprite, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, the end revelation of her love is like, okay, well,
that's a bit creepy.
But
there are this sort of real diverse cast, and that's so trendy right now. And I don't trust Marvel with these sort of things because I feel like they've done them poorly in the past, and they put them in as window dressing. And it doesn't feel organic in the film, and it can kind of detract. That was absolutely not the case in this film. This film is actually kind of crappy, in spite of the fact that the cast really, really works. So not because the cast is diverse and all those good things. It's actually and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a great thing that all these different characters are played the way they are and they're included in the story. Inclusion is important. But the film suffers. It fails not because of him, in spite of him. They all kind of do that kind of thing reasonably well, but the film suffers in spite of it. Can I just get that out there straight away? The film suffers because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 new superheroes in this film, none of which we know about. We are given very little time to care about any of them or know about any of them. And the ones they do ask us to care about are the least interesting characters in the film.
Yeah, 100%. And you've got Cersei, who is definitely the main focus, followed by Icarus. And Cersei's power is kind of unexplained, and they keep on they so desperately want you to invest and feel this emotional weight and the gravity of everything that they are doing and how it's I feel like they're trying to get the audience to imagine what it must be like to be guardians of the earth and literally watch mankind go from like literal kind of Conan the Barbarian style slaves in the waste to what we are now and what they dealt with the snap and the return and all of that stuff. But the story just kind of fails in actually showing it, and it's very much a matter of time, because there are little scenes that come through that are sort of like, oh, I can tell that's key, but you haven't quite earned it. And it just feels like it's like, oh, skip to the next bit. And there is, for a movie that is about the journey of these characters over 7,000 years or however long it is, they forget to actually include the journey in the storytelling of the relationships and the character arcs.
You made a good observation.
Kind of quite ironic.
That one of the key relationships in the film is between Icarus and Cersei. And as I said, I think they're two of the least interesting characters, especially Cersei, which is a shame. I quite like Gemma Chan. She was in a British TV show called Humans that I really liked. But she did play a robot in that. So she was pretty well uniquely qualified to do that, because she doesn't seem to have a lot of range. But they have this relationship, and apparently they were dating and they were together for 5,000 years. And then they've broken up, and at the start of the film, they sort of catch up together again for the first time in God knows how long. But you never feel like these two people have been together for thousands of years. That gravity of knowledge about that feelings of that relationship just don't seem to be there. The film it made me think of at that point in time was a significantly less, also an unsuccessful comic book film. And that was The Old Guard. Remember that one with Charlize Theron on Netflix?
Oh yeah,
that's you remember that film was about superhero type characters who'd been around alive for thousands and thousands of years, and some of them had coupled up. It was a same-sex couple. In two of them who had been together for thousands of years. And while I don't think that was a great film, that part of it I felt was very successful. And you said you felt that relationship. These people, I don't know, obviously no one has ever known each other for thousands of years before. But But if you did, I kind of feel like it would look a little bit like what they felt like in that. What it looked like in that film. Those characters, they seem to have an ease together, a way of relating to each other that felt like maybe they'd been together for, centuries.
Yeah.
I didn't get that in this film. Maybe that was definitely lacking.
Yeah, but so every element of it, you said it at the start, there's real nuggets of an interesting story, like the evolution of the deviant that comes to be known as Crow, apparently. But I don't think that's ever actually pointed out in the movie. The one who becomes more sentient and can talk and things like that. It's like, okay, that's an interesting concept. We're not really going to do anything with that anymore. And the fact that Droog had this wonderful emotional breakdown when he sees all these people kind of coming in and destroying everything that they've built, and he is chastised using his power to stop war, and he just goes off into seclusion. Like, well, that's actually really cool and interesting, but you never revisit it, you never really go back to it, you just kind of pick up and let's go. I feel like it's a real missed opportunity, and I do wonder if part of it is because of what has come before. Because this is the first kind of interstellar group of superheroes, and that suddenly sounds a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy. And Guardians of the Galaxy was an unequivocal success. It was a complete and utter hit. It launched all of the actors in those roles, and it's basically impossible to think of any other actor in those roles. We fell in love with them straight away. There was instant connection with them. And we can remember all of those characters, even though most people in the world had no idea who the Guardians of the Galaxy were.
But they got the right... I think the key here is... Well, there's a few things I think they've kind of got wrong here. One, but there are a shit ton of Eternals. Like, there are more than the ones in this film. And so that's a hard task. And go back to it again, what we said at the start. Is absolutely, I know it would lack maybe some of a scale, but they wanted, but it should have absolutely have been a show on Disney Plus. In 10 episodes, maybe even get 11 episodes, 1 episode per character. We get an hour to learn who each character is. Episode 11 is the showdown, and each episode can sort of build up to the big bad at the end. We could have got to know the characters in the lead up, and then had the blow off at the end. And then it's a bit like Justice League. Remember, like we didn't really get. We got a Superman movie, and then the Batman Superman movie. And then we just chucked them all together. We got no Flash. We got we didn't have an Aquaman film out at that point in time. We certainly didn't get a Cyborg film. So it just sort of expected us to know who these characters were and care. This is the first time we've kind of done it. I mean, in fairness, the Guardians of the Galaxy had a smaller group of heroes to tell the story about, and a significantly more talented director, I would say, or a significantly better suited director for that kind of story than Chloe Zhao.
Yeah,
I'm sure she's wonderful if you like, beautiful, boring art house films. If you want something that's actually entertaining, I haven't seen anything from her yet that says she's the person to hire.
That's true.
So I'm sure she'll get a Star Wars trilogy before long.
I think she's doing I think she's doing like a Dracula movie or something next.
Great. It's
that would fit with her song tone.
Like, I was quite interested. I think it's obvious because he has the best lines in the film. Is Kumail Nanjiani. I think he's the most engaging character in the film. I think he has the most screen presence of anyone in the film. I'm a huge fan of Kumail Nanjiani. I think he's a wonderful actor. And the other one was Brian Tyree Henry. I think his character of Fastos was actually quite interesting as well. And my interest level seemed to rise every time he was on screen. Would have liked to have seen a lot more of those two characters, but we don't, because we don't have time. We've got to spend as much time as we can with the Gemma, with the Cersei Icarus relationship. I also found the jumping around very irritating and off-putting. So it'd be jumping from time period to time period, backwards and forwards, all over the world. The film it reminded me most at that point was the Rouge One, the Star Wars film.
He has which everybody all of the knives today, ladies and gentlemen.
Everyone loves that film, I know. Like, the amount of people I bump into who are Star Wars fans, like, oh, I love that film, you gotta watch it again. I'm like, yeah, you know, yeah, the first half hour of that film, just jumping around all over the place so much. It really, I was just kind of out after that first half hour, and it could do whatever it wanted at that point. It had already lost me. And it kind of did the same sort of thing here. It was constantly jumping around back and forth, and I just didn't think that served the story terribly well.
But the reason why they did that is because they tried to eventually make this whole movie a murder mystery, and they botched it. Because, okay, so like we've got Salma Hayek. Yeah, we're gonna show that she's dead in the first 15 minutes of the movie or whatever. Okay, cool. Well, let's find out who it is. It's obvious who it is, and everyone's just being stupid because story needs them to be. It's not going to do a murder mystery.
They should have got Daniel Craig in for this one, and he could have been like
Benoit Blanc.
That would have been hilarious.
I would have loved that.
Things I liked about the film, like I said, Kamal Nanjiani is very funny, very engaging.
Yes.
I hope he was actually, James Gunn was going to cast him in one of his films, but then the Marvel guy said, no, we've got him in mind for Eternals, and he said, oh well, that's a bigger role, let him have it. I'd like to see more of him. I like for Celestials, who I assume, spoilers here, people, if you haven't seen it, too bad. It's been out for weeks.
Like the Ashmala, the
Ashmala, I think they're called the Celestials, right? They're the character who, I think it's Galactus, right?
That's not Galactus. Galactus, I don't think is technically a Celestial, but there's some kind of connection or relationship with the Celestials because Galactus comes along and just eats worlds. So the Celestials are shown to easily be big enough to do that.
Whatever it is, it bloody well looked like it.
The one in this movie was called Ashmar, I think it is.
Oh, well, that's completely different then. Like, it just happens to look exactly like what Galactus looks like, but it's not.
It doesn't look it's all like Galactus.
It's got a giant head in the fucking sky.
That's racism.
Either way, it looked cool, right? In the scene where finally it finally reveals itself, and you can see everyone on Earth can
Galactus.
It's very similar.
It's different.
It's
it has like 6 eyes or something.
Oh, wow, it's completely different. Like I think this is. If I don't do that, and I don't know how they can ever introduce Galactus because it looks exactly the same. Either way, it looked super cool when we had the reveal of the Celestial's head in the sky that everyone on Earth could see. That was freaking terrifying.
Yeah, and it gave you a sense of scope that, like when in Infinity War, when Thanos's ship comes in just the bleakest strait and they go out and just see this sheer side of it, and even Peter Parker senses it from like miles and miles away as he's going up the bridge. It gave you that sense of scope of, oh, holy shit, yeah, that's fucking huge, to suddenly have a head. It's like, show me what you've got.
Yeah.
It did a good job of really invoking that sense of scale compared to the Celestial, because you really got that.
That was impressive. I thought the third act wasn't as bad as egregious as the third act in Shang-Chi. So while there still was a lot of CGI bullshit going on, it wasn't as CGI annoying as Shang-Chi was. That Shang-Chi third act just sort of came out of nowhere. It's like, stick dragons in it. And it really kind of let the rest of the film down because it was just so classic Marvel. This one, of course, was a CGI fight, but it was a little bit more in character, if you will. It was more in line with what the film had been talking about up to that point in time. Is this the worst Marvel film to date, according to you?
I don't think it is the worst. I still think that Thor: The Dark World is overall a worse movie because that didn't look good. The story was bad, and it just made the least amount of sense overall for me. It's the least enjoyable. This, at least, it was beautiful, and there were real, genuine nuggets of interest. And I do also wonder if part of the reason why we feel like it fails where it does is because it has a bit of a Voltron syndrome where it's trying to serve too many masters and set up this whole cosmos of things to go.
That could be it, but it's also boring. It's also boring. It's boring. That's its problem. And that's Chloe Zhao's problem. She makes beautiful films that are boring, and it needed to be more exciting, and it needed to give us something payoff at some point.
Even the end. The way that it all ends, the like killing off of characters that may or may not be dead, if you believe the rumors online, and just where characters end up and stuff like that. I don't care. It really makes no interest to me. And then the teaser of the voice who appears off screen and starts talking to Kit Harington's character. It's like, okay, sure, you're setting that up, but just you
for
don't
those
need
who don't
to do
know,
that.
considering we've already spoiled other things in the film, there is two post-credit scenes. One involving one of the Cersei's human boyfriend, supposedly human boyfriend, played by Game of Thrones person 2, who's opening a box with a sword in it, and a voice off camera says something to him, and it turns out once you Google it, that is Mahershala Ali's Blade. So I liked that once I found out who it was, but it would have been so much cooler if we'd seen him, because I had to Google it.
Even just reflection.
Well, that wouldn't have made sense because I assume Blade doesn't have a reflection because he's a vampire.
He's a daywalker. He may have a reflection. About that.
But something like that, or just like a shadow, right, or something like a hint at him. Like, that would have blown people's minds, because the mid-credit scene left me very cold. The introduction of Kanos's brother Eros, and everyone in the city was like, and I'm like,
yeah.
Does everybody know who Eros is? And I don't. Then Michelle, who was with, said that's Harry Styles, and I'm like, wasn't he in a boy band? He was in a boy band, right?
I think he was in
One Direction, I think. Either way, I didn't recognize him.
I don't know.
And apparently that puts me in the uncool group of people. Yes, he was in One Direction.
Put him in the uncool group.
So I had no idea who the actor was. I had no idea who Harry Styles was, and I was like, "Why is everybody excited?" And it wasn't because of the character; it was because that was Harry Styles, and apparently the ladies like Harry. And that whole scene, the dwarf thing looks stupid. And he's like, "No, this is wrong. No, you've done it wrong. I've sat through 2.5 hours of your version of The Last Jedi, guys. Give me something for my trouble. You owe me something for my trouble. Give me a Nick Fury, Maria Hill, fucking something.
No,
but no. Give me a game of Guardians. They're in space. Give me a Captain Marvel. Even I would have been happy. I would have lived with a Captain Marvel reference. But no, got nothing.
Nope.
I found the film was dull. It was trying to do a lot of things. We've been through all the problems, but in the end of the day, it's just a bit dull, and it shouldn't have been.
Do you think it's the worst Marvel movie?
It's been a long time since I saw The Dark World. I got to be honest, but I don't think it was this bad. I don't remember being this bored. There's a couple of scenes in there where we started to see Hemsworth doing comedy a little bit. There's one scene where he walks into Jane's apartment and he hangs Mjolnir up on the coat rack as he walks in. I thought it was very charming and very funny. And I don't think this film had a moment like that. Maybe Kamal Nanjiani's and his relationship with his assistant, played by Harish Patel, Karun. Those two guys had amazing chemistry. Those guys were getting laughs.
They were awesome, and they didn't use them enough.
No,
and
it really
just literally walks off for 2/3 of the final part of the movie.
Hi guys, I'm back. You see, you killed the thing, and I abandoned you The other part of this is
Yeah.
also that Sprite betrays him at the end, joins Icarus
Yeah.
and tries to kill Cersei, and then after the battle, they're like, "Oh, you."
Let's give you what you want.
You know, let's just not mention the whole
cheeky Sam.
murdering us and betraying your friends of thousands of years. That'll be fine. No. Yeah,
This is the Marvel Universe. There are no consequences.
let's not talk. Don't mention the war. So, I didn't like Captain Marvel very much. People know my opinion on that film. I thought that was one of the weakest films in the MCU. And that was, I think, a perfect example of a film for me that put the politics first and then wrote the story. But you know, the wooden board would have given a better performance than Brie Larson in that film. But it is still better than this.
It just misses that key element of enjoyment. And anyone who says, "Oh, well, if you say you want it to be serious," it is very easily possible to have an enjoyable, serious movie. It's something that you really feel emotionally invested in. I came out of the movie and I just started analyzing it as a movie rather than going, "Oh, did I enjoy that? Was I liking this? Did I like that?" It was film 101 analysis rather than me looking back and I'm like, "Oh, I liked how they did this, did that."
I must say, Michelle gave
the movie.
Michelle gave a brilliant criticism of this after we walked out of the cinema. Yet another cinema in Melbourne that didn't have the air conditioning switched on Tuesday and Saturday night, so it was roasting in there. So I actually question going to the cinema now. Right, if they're not going to turn the aircon on, we're coming into summer. I might just stay home and torrent it. But yeah, Michelle gave one of his most brilliant criticisms. This is like a critique of capitalism, and I'm like, yeah, you got a point. But I don't know if people turn up to Marvel films to get a subtle critique of capitalism. If they can, yeah. And if you are going to do that, you better make it fun. Like I took Black Mirror to have a very subtle anti-Trump message, or Black Panther having a subtle anti-Trump message running through it. But that was also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. So fun, then politics. Marvel, fun, politics, fun, politics. That's how it works. Fun, politics. You know, it's very simple. I'll write it on the whiteboard in the writer's room for you.
Don't write it on a whiteboard and wipe it off.
Yeah, it is the lowest rated Marvel film to date. It has a 6.8 on IMDb and a Metascore of 52. So, and like I said the last couple of weeks, considering how the critics fillet anything that Marvel puts out and anything that reeks of diversity, and they just get down in their little hind legs and go, "It's wonderful." That tells you a lot about this film. That it's got some problems.
I think you're right. And they came out fairly soon after the movie release. There might not be a sequel. It doesn't necessarily need one. It's like, okay, you could smell it, couldn't you? You could smell that it might not be the success that you want it to be, that you always want your movies to be. Not judging them for wanting to make a successful movie. That's obvious. But to come out and just kind of go, "Oh, no, it's one and done." Marvel don't really make one done movies.
Well, these guys are going to have to incorporate. Well, it's a little bit like Captain Marvel was originally going to get a sequel. Now she's kind of getting a sequel. It's the Marvel. It's not just about her. We've now got Miss Marvel as well. You know,
and she continued on in the movies as holograms. I think that's all that they can afford of Brie Larson.
You know, but she'll be in the Marvel, so they're like, Brie, you know, if you're going to do the wooden board thing, maybe we'll get somebody who can act in the film as well, just to sort of balance it out a little bit. So maybe, I'm sure the Eternals will pop up again. May I leave one final criticism of this film from me? How do you get Angelina Jolie in a film like this and give her nothing to do? Like, she got minimal screen time in this film, and like, I was so much more interested in what she was doing than just anybody else. She had so much more presence and charisma than most of the other characters.
And the relationship that she had with Gilgamesh as well was great. Just their bond was just really wonderful, and we never got anywhere near enough of it.
Go back to school. Go and stand in the corner, Chloe and Kevin. You've not done well.
Think about what you've done.
While we're on the Marvel bandwagon, and it's just not us. It's like just keep releasing shit. You got a problem with it? Write to Disney. Stanley Letter, please release 2 less things a year. I am not a crank. But Marvel's Hawkeye did land just after the show. While we were on the show, doing the show last week, it landed on Disney Plus, and there have been 3 episodes dropped now on the Disney Plus platform. As we just discussed at the start, I haven't had the chance to watch the 3rd one yet because I watch other things too. This, of course, is based on the character Hawkeye, played by Jeremy Renner in the MCU today. Series based on the Marvel Comics superhero Hawkeye, centering on the adventures of young Avenger Kate Bishop, who took on the role after the original Avenger Clint Barton. So, spoilers just in the frickin' synopsis there, but I think everybody knows that Jeremy Renner is out in the not too distant future of these films and doesn't want to do it anymore. And I'm fairly certain, considering some of the controversy that he gets himself involved in as a person, Marvel probably won't be too sad to see the back of him. And again, it's probably not entirely shocking that he's being replaced by Kate Bishop, who I think is a character from the comic books.
I believe so. I
know she definitely turned up in the Avengers video game. What a wonderful thing that was.
Kate Bishop is a 22-year-old Hawkeye character. She's
Anyway, she's played in this film, but I assume she's the original, one of the people who took on the Hawkeye mantle in the comic books. And it's boy, does it piss off a lot of people. The people out there who don't call it. Oh, it's the MCU now. Losers. But she's played by Haley Steinfeld in the Hawkeye TV series. Haley, I think, probably best known for True Grit. She played in about 10 years ago.
Yes. And
she was also in Bumblebee, which I did not see because I don't watch Transformers films. I saw 2 of them. That was enough.
Just kept on remaking.
Otherwise,
Bumblebee was actually the best of the Transformers movies.
I've heard people say that, but they lost their chance. Other names you'll see in here: Florence Pugh. If anybody saw the Black Widow film, that will not be a shock that she's going to turn up. Tony Dalton, who you'll be like, I know that guy. Who is he? And he, of course, plays the character of Lalo in Better Call Saul. I don't think you're watching Better Call Saul, are you?
No. I'm now doing it just to annoy you.
The other one is missing out. Anyway, Lalo is the antagonist who's turned up in the last couple of seasons of Better Call Saul, and he is fucking terrifying. Vera Farmiga, you probably recognize her. I think she's in the Conjuring films. Is that her franchise?
Yes.
I don't know. I saw one once at the drive-in and thought it was awful. And I'm like, they've made how many of these things?
She was in that George Clooney one about the
Up in the Air?
Yes.
And she was also in The Departed. And she was also in the Bates Motel series.
Yes, she was.
So she's just one of those names you see popping up around. Laura Cardinelli pops up. She was best known for probably Freaks and Geeks. She was early. Where you see a lot of those big names. What's the guy who made all those? Judd Apatow's piece thing. Anyway, it's set in New York. We start by seeing Clint, and his family attending Rogers the Musical, which I thought was absolutely one of the funniest scenes in the first episode. Was him pointing out the fact that Ant-Man wasn't really there as they have the musical recreation of the Battle of New York. That guy wasn't there.
I do appreciate that, and I do appreciate just little bits like him just having the hearing aid and stuff like that. So like there's just tangible evidence of him getting older and having done shit that most people would not survive. It's nice to see that they actually get injured.
He's also playing the old man character a little bit. He's got the hearing aid. The usual cheesy thing is him trying to get home by Christmas. I would love it if it's turned into a planes, trains, and automobiles type situation with him and Kate Bishop just trying to go cross country, fighting off Florence Pugh and whatever else. That would be funny.
That would be cool. That would be awesome.
Planes, Trains, and Superheroes. It writes itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, send the checks in the post.
We're prepared to. That is available. We don't own any of the properties involved, but we came up with the idea.
That won't stop us writing it.
It's a spec script. I think that my first take on this, the first couple episodes is, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is a fairly new show. I'd like people to have a chance to see it if they haven't got around to it yet. As we come into Christmas, we at the start of it we see Kate in her apartment in New York watching the Battle of New York. We see Hawkeye unknowingly save Kate's life from a. What were those bad guys in the first Avengers film called again? The Chitauri, because it blows up a one of those scooters with Chitauri and it's about to smash into her apartment building. And she becomes she was inspired by being saved by Hawkeye to become an archer and a martial artist, and she's a bit of a school troublemaker at the start of a film. She has a very rich mother, played what's her name again? Vera Farmiga, who's just met her new beau, played by Tony Dalton, with Jack Duquesne's, and gets all caught up in a little bit of shenanigans at a party where there turns out to be a black market auction in the basement of where there's this big party, because that's where most market auctions take place. Yeah, and she acquires the ninja suit that Hawkeye was wearing in Endgame. The what do they call him?
The suit of the Ronin.
The Ronin, yes. See, I would have enjoyed this if it started with him, told a little bit of story of him, because I remember that was one of the more intriguing parts of Endgame. Was like, they made Hawkeye interesting.
Forget that. We've got his Hawkeye.
Pretty much, don't pay no attention to the interesting stuff you saw previously. And she beats the shit out of a bunch of guys to escape. Hawkeye sees her getting beat down and rescues her, and they become best friends and decide to team up to try and figure out what's going on with the tracksuit mafia. Is that what they're calling them?
Yes, tracksuit mafia.
And what are you making of it so far?
I'm very much with you. I feel like a lot of people are reading more into this than there may actually be. Like a lot of it, like the early trailer, and especially the notes of Christmas music that they're using in the first 2 episodes in particular, it's really asking you to kind of lean into those. It's like Die Hard, but with Hawkeye. That's cool, and that would generally be kind of cool. But it's not quite what's happening. And the people kind of saying, we're going to be seeing, this could be the reveal of Kingpin and having Vincent D'Onofrio back as Kingpin officially into the MCU. Like, okay, that would be cool because he was fucking awesome as Kingpin. But at the same time, I don't know if that Kingpin exactly fits thematically, stylistically into the story that they're telling for this, unless this show of Hawkeye goes a lot darker, because he was a dark motherfucker.
It's fairly light and fluffy at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's only so much that you can go. There's a very big difference of things where they have a pet dog. You've got the light fluffy one, or you've got the Will Smith one where he
I Am Legend.
Yeah, I Am Legend. It's like, okay, that's bleak as fuck. Okay, and I'm pretty sure Marvel aren't going to go that bleak. I think that's definitely going to send a message of, okay, this is where we're sitting with this. It might be a very much the last thing we just get a meeting of him in that iconic white suit or something like that. But it does seem like they're trying to load it up with a lot of things. And for example, the character of Jack Duquesne, apparently in the comics, he's somewhat of Barton's mentor, but that's apparently completely not happening in this, which is going to be interesting to see if he's bullshitting or not, where the third episode ends up. It's also apparently the Maya Lopez, who's Alec Cox, Def Commander. She has apparently got her own spin-off TV show in the works. So, guess who survives the series, I guess.
I don't even know which character she is.
She's the at the end of episode 2, I think it is. One of the henchmen kind of goes into a room and this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her.
She look like, yeah, gotcha. Sorry.
Yeah.
Interesting. We've got. I think you know this person. Sir John says my favorite recent trend is watching clueless Tom Holland stance, watching the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So hilarious, asking where Ned is and why the Avengers aren't helping him, or wanting to cancel the Green Goblin. What does the Green Goblin do? Did he praise Dave Chappelle's Netflix special or something? So John also says, so far for me, it's a little too Disney Channel like. Same as Spider-Man, Disney makes a bunch of these shows. Young person becomes Spider-Man, a high school singer goes viral, etc. It is a very light show compared to, say, Loki. Well, it wasn't dark; it was dealing with some heavier themes. And WandaVision particularly was dealing with a heavier theme of grief, especially in the first half of the series.
And even Winter Soldier, that was socially quite aware.
And it dealt with a lot of the racial elements. You know, the scene where the cops tried to arrest Falcon. You know, and just because he's black, the whole and the Tuskegee experiment kind of elements to the show, and the oppression of the black super soldier. So that's all that's there. I mean, there's some jokes, but it's all in there. And this one, so far, there's none of that in there. You're right; it seemed like almost Home Alone, the Marvel's version.
Oh, okay. So Jim was saying the Green Goblin saying to Harry, "Mary Jane is a gold digger. Do as you wish, then toss her away." Yeah, that's.
But he's a bad guy, right? Bad guys say bad shit.
Yeah, I think that's partly there to incite a little bit of hatred towards the character.
Wait till these kids see the original Superman films. Gene Hackman, you know, he wasn't mucking around, right? You know, he's Tessmacher. You know, I don't think Miss Tessmacher has much agency in those films, and I suspect that they'll be disappointed.
I need you to cosplay as Lex Luthor.
I thought you were going to ask me to cosplay as Miss Tessmacher, in which case, maybe.
That would be awesome.
I think I would make a much better Otis, don't you? Is it Otis his other sidekick?
Oh,
played by Ned Cox.
You've got the scream of Miss Tessmacher. You got that well.
I grew up with Gene Hackman as my Lex Luthor. You know, some people grew up with whatever the TV show was, Smallville, and the bald guy in the show. I forget his name. But some people, very, very unfortunate people, might have grown up around 2006 and got Kevin Spacey as their Lex Luthor, in which case you have my sympathies, thoughts, and prayers. We need and the very unfortunate
Michael
ones who also
Rosenbaum.
grew up with Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Yeah.
It's an interesting take. But anyway, let's get back to Hawkeye.
We've got to get off Hawkeye very easy because it's easy to get off. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's fine. I'm not enjoying it.
It's going to be interesting to see if it grows and develops. So far, the action sequences seem pretty good. The fights are pretty good. What was it that we were watching the other day? Both of us were saying that Cowboy Bebop, the martial arts sequences in that just seemed like not impactful. In this, you've got Haley Steinfeld flipping around and doing all these actions and stuff, and it feels impactful. When she gets hit, you kind of feel it. Not so much in the aftermath. It's like, oh, you've got a cut here. You were just beaten up by 6 thugs. You're not built like a big shit house. You're probably going to be more pain than that. again, I think this is that tonal thing of when we saw Charlie Cox's Daredevil in the Netflix show. He was constantly popping pain pills and had bruises and shit all over him. It would be kind of nice to see a little bit more of that reality coming into it, and maybe they are going to do that with Clint's hearing aid and things like that. But who knows?
I just like them to make it interesting. Like, come on, everyone. The criticism from day one is, why is Hawkeye even there? You know, the Avengers saved New York, and Hawkeye was there too. You know, like, he shoots arrows. How is he going to fight Thanos? You know, like, and that's when I thought what they did with him as a Ronin was kind of interesting, in the sense that they actually kind of showed he had a skill set beyond shooting arrows. And, you know, that would have also, just as an aside, would have been a fantastic way to have built out that Black Widow film. Would have been if it had been Hawkeye and Black Widow in Budapest, and that's where you learn about why Hawkeye is awesome and why, you know, the Avengers would want him in there. And of course, they didn't decide to do that. So they really needed to try and make him interesting. And so far, he's entertaining. He's got reasonable chemistry with Kate, but I would not say that they have succeeded in breaking that you know, that meme of him being the least interesting Avenger.
I think they are kind of even putting a bit of a highlight on it, because repeatedly Haley Steinfeld's Kate saying, "Oh, your problem is branding." It's like,
yeah, that was an amusing scene. I'll pay that. Yeah, I'm not trying to sell anything. That was a good scene. But I'm being a little critical here. It's I would say I'm probably maybe enjoying it as much as I was Loki. But the difference here is the bar for Loki was right up here. We expected a lot of Loki. Like, I had super high expectations, and they didn't meet them. My expectations for Hawkeye are right down here, because, like, it's Hawkeye. I don't care about him. The amount of people who said to me, "I'm not going to watch it. I don't care about Hawkeye." And some people with an active axe to grind against the character because he killed Black Widow. So it's all right, but it's difficult to judge just considering the difference in expectations compared to the previous Marvel series. But it's fine. It's fine. I'll keep watching. I'm like, you know, you mentioned Cowboy Bebop. I couldn't motivate myself to go back for more of that, but I'll definitely keep watching Hawkeye.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep watching, but it's sort of like, it's quickly becoming, I could put that on in the background. I don't really need to watch it kind of material.
It's not must view. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's now, if you remember the start of the year when we had WandaVision, that was must-see TV every week. Everybody was super keen to see what's going to happen this week. What's the weird commercial going to be which decade is the TV series going to take over? And we've come from that to this, where you're like, it can be put on in the background.
Yeah. It's the degeneration of Disney branding. They come out with something that's big, bombastic, and generally overall impressive considering what they're trying to do, and then they just go, "Oh, we had a success. Let's keep making it," and drive it.
It has been a little. I mean, and not entirely their fault. Just I guess maybe the COVID. We've been kind of overloaded with product of late. So there are 3 movies coming out in the back end of the year, and a TV show. So that's a lot of a lot. But
still, like they were still going to release those movies anyway. They just chose not to release them all. So it's a lot of content they're pushing down our throats of Marvel superheroes in a year.
I'd also like to point out that John is pointing out that millennials ask unfortunate and annoying questions. I agree. Is it time for our sponsors this week?
I'm just going to do a quick finish up on the latest episode 4 of Wheel of Time, because I won't go into it too much.
I watched 10 minutes of the first episode the other day, and you'll be shocked to hear I was pretty bored.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, because you're a godless
shocked,
hero.
I tell you.
Now, episode 4 continues. It is still wonderful for me, in my opinion. It's still a great adaptation. It's pissing me off that there are now fans kind of getting angry because they're changing bits of the story. It's like, well, yes, you're not going to get everything, because if they literally translated books into TV show, there'd be some really fucking long, boring, arduous hours of TV to go through. They are truncating, they are compacting, they are doing what they need to do to keep the story compelling. I'm really enjoying it. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Oh, you can keep talking if you want to. I did give it a go. I did try. I might go back for more. It was just, you know, it's I think you get it, like, in a sense, you just couldn't get into Black Mirror. You always hated it.
Yeah.
And it's just something about it probably that I imagine it just makes you go, meh, I can't get motivated for that. Just puts you off.
Yeah,
something
pretty much.
Unspoken. Whereas for me, I turn on anything and they've got like people with swords and cloaks on horses, and you're like, really?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a challenge now. Travis has made me watch some really horrible things, so if ever there comes a point where I have to chastise Travis, he and I are going to go LARPing.
LARPing? I will watch movies, but I will not go LARPing, though. Though I did see a documentary about LARPing once that was very interesting.
The gateway drug is taking you to go axe throwing.
I've seen pictures of that. So, we're going to segue to our sponsor of
who's our sponsor this week?
Our mid-show toilet break. It is the UK in the 1980s, including Crunchy, the Crunchy chocolate bar.
Oh, lovely. Good quality chocolate bar.
And just going to get the system forward here. And here we go.
Is happening to Cadbury's Crunchy with extra light-hearted honeycomb center. More delicious Cadbury's milk chocolate. Altogether, 20% more. Thank Crunchy, it's Friday. Oh, Perrier. Ho, ho, ho.
Another case for Inspector Corner of the Yard. A seemingly innocent picnic, but the state of the victims and the vital clue
Tangy, tongue-biting vinegar.
lead Corner to the inevitable conclusion.
Hayward's pickles have bitten again.
Hayward's, the only pickles to bite back.
If you took the very best of nature and put it all together, you'd expect something pretty terrific, wouldn't you? New Golden Veil. With corn oil and English butter. For the butter taste you want, and the pure goodness corn oil gives. New Golden Veil. The best of nature, in a way nature never knew how.
He isn't like any man I've ever known. Pierre Cardin is his choice. But if you know a man like him...
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce.
I'm an EK kid from the 1980s. I do not remember these ads. Oh no, I never ate McDonald's. Yeah.
Remember, Captain, the British passed the port.
Ah, the Russian passed the port.
Yes.
Okay.
Fleur du Monde, a fresh new classic fragrance, created from the flowers of the world.
Empress. Appreciate the
Fleur du Monde, for the women of the world.
Also for pianists. You know, I'm so glad we made an upgrade to high definition world because, you know, before we had HD, everything was so blurry.
Tradition tells of a pill's lager, and of a silent messenger's timeless search, his quest, that lager, the lager of Lamont.
What the fuck is this?
For a strong pills with a taste beyond time.
The beer advert, but it looks like the best fucking episode of He-Man ever.
Of Lamont.
Where's that remake? Come on, fuckers. Come on, fuckers.
To reflect your highest standards, Nescafe Gold Blend introduced the seal of quality, your assurance of all the flavor of the finest Arabica beans. So rich,
It is nothing to do
so
with just
full,
pure
so
advertising.
smooth.
Pure
No other
advertising.
coffee can surpass it.
Pure gold.
I never settle for anything less.
Reach for the Gold Blend standard, only from Nescafe.
Pure gold. Which is just coffee.
Paco Rabanne for men. What is remembered is up to you.
I don't know. I remember. There are a lot of adverts for perfume. In the 80s.
I mean, you know what they say about the British and baths, though, don't you?
No.
That could explain the perfume.
Fuck you. I bathe once a month, thank you very much.
A big book of British smiles. Classic stuff. Nothing in there you recognize then? You didn't eat at McDonald's when you were a kid?
I do not eat McDonald's ever. It is trash.
Ooh.
Wimpy
Burger?
I said that. I did have Wimpy, but I was always a Burger King man.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a fast food chain in the UK called Wimpy, or at least there was.
It was. That's actually a line in my movie from week before last week in Soho. Like the two people met had lunch in a Wimpy. It's like, oh, I'd love to do that. So like, well, I don't think Wimpy exists anymore. So like, oh no, I'm that old.
I think they do. As of October 2021, the company remains headquartered in Johannesburg, South Africa, where it has 459 outlets. This is followed by the United Kingdom with 71 outlets. In 2020, the company announced plans for a nationwide expansion in the UK.
Okay, because nothing bad happened in 2020.
There you go, your plans. People were looking for a silver lining. Your silver lining for 2020, Wimpy Burger. There's your silver lining. You're welcome.
Now,
should we have a chat about the Chain movie?
Yeah, let's talk about vibes.
This one really probably shouldn't take long, to be entirely frank. I was kind of taking the piss a little bit with this one. But had you seen Vibes or had you heard of Vibes before? I
had not seen or heard of Vibes before. But I'm going to say it straight off the bat so that people don't, I'll first read synopsis and then I will give my thoughts. So, two psychics are hired to find the location of a lost Incan city located somewhere in the Ecuadorian mountains that is said to hide a great treasure. I really enjoyed this movie.
You did?
I did. It had kind of it was very much a product of 1980s because it had that slight mysticism thing. There was a little, even the opening thing, there's people being tested for their psychic abilities and they're pulling out the cards with stars and things like that. So, I saw that scene in Ghostbusters. And then the Americans being sent off to some South American country. It's that's very Romancing the Stone. And there was kind of just a lot of, it was like a Frankenstein monster of pretty much every movie that the 1980s created, all in one film.
There's a little bit of Indiana Jones sprinkled on there on top just for good measure.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, this just warms the cockles of my heart a little bit. I do appreciate it.
I'm very glad to movie. I'm glad to have introduced it to you then. I thought I was being a bit silly by introducing it. See, I did remember seeing this in the 80s. Bit of backstory for people who don't exactly know how weird I really am. when I was about 13. Do you remember there was a book you used to be able to get? It was called the Lennon Moulton's Movie Guide.
Yeah.
And it was a big book, a little paperback book about so big. It was about that thick, full of movie reviews. And they were all like 2 sentences and like a little star review. And we used to have one of those in our house when we were a kid. And every movie, you look it up and you try to find it in the book. I tried to write my own Leonard Moulton movie guide when I was about 13 and tried to write a reviews of like pretty much every film I could remember seeing. And that probably extended to about 20 pages because, it was just going off the top of my head.
And now basically we have a podcast about it.
Yes, 10 years. Interestingly, I took it and I submitted it to my high school library for some bizarre reason, and they kept it for like years and years and years. Unfortunately, I don't believe that school and that library no longer exists. So
they were the keepers of the sacred tome. They had to be destroyed.
Well, yeah, maybe like well, dig it up one day, I'm sure. But it can't be held against me in any court of law. It doesn't exist anymore. But this was one of the films that was in there. This film I absolutely saw on television in the late 80s or early 90s, and I definitely wrote a review, so I remembered it. But talking to Michelle recently, this is one of her favorite movies. And it was actually one of a few people who remembers it apart from her, and hence we followed Jeff Goldblum here. I had the same reaction of you in the sense that while I was watching, I was like, "Oh, I'm getting strong romancing the stone vibes here." And the original scene, at least initially, did remind me very obviously of Ghostbusters with the cards. A couple of wavy lines. It's just not your day, is it? Then I sort of said you sort of got those Indiana Jones vibes throughout as well. I think the strength of the film relies on the chemistry between Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum. And Jeff Goldblum is Goldbluming the fuck out of his film. Like Jeff Goldblum has never Goldblum.
Anyone who thought, oh, it's what he's doing in his elder statesman years of his career. Nah, he's been doing this from day one.
This was his act. It's full of, but it's Goldblum at his most charming and disarming. He was quite an actor he's still quite an actor, but he was really charming. Despite the fact that I don't know that Cyndi Lauper has ever done any other films or anything of note in terms of acting. Apparently she was in Mad About You, but I don't remember that. But I don't think she's ever did any other features where she was basically the star. I'll be corrected if anybody remembers one that she was in, but I don't know about. Yeah. And while she doesn't have a great deal of screen presence, she holds her own. And she's quite an unusual character in the sense that, like, she's desperate. So to give a bit of background, we have as George noted, a convention at a university or a series of some testing going on at New York University to try and identify who's people with psychic powers and who's the most potent. And we see all these various psychics being tested. It's being run by Julian Sands, which is never a good look. If Julian Sands is running anything, leave. It'd be like turning up. It was Mads Mikkelsen, and you'd be like, "Oh hell no, I am out. I want nothing to do with any of this."
I will be your doctor. No, you won't. Bye.
And as it says, no, it turns into they're being while they're leaving the university, they're being photographed by someone who turns out to be Peter Falk. Yes, Columbo himself, who then recruits both Jeff Goldblum and who's his name, Nick, and Cyndi Lauper's character Sylvia to go to Ecuador, in fact, to find his now lost son. It turns out there's more to the story than that. So Sylvia's psychic power is she has a psychic guide called Louise, who no one can see. So it's a little bit like my favorite Martian. Was it the one that had little magic Martian? Anyway, Jeff Goldblum can, by holding things, can get psychic vibes from a thing and tell who owned it and where it's been and that sort of thing, which is actually used quite hilariously, especially when he's in a hotel in Ecuador, and someone tries to seduce him by giving him an aphrodisiac. And he goes, "Oh, this was in an aphrodisiac. We have it's got elephant horn in it or something." And he's like, "Are there elephant horns in the basement in Brooklyn?" Yeah, and it's actually quite funny, and the chemistry it develops between Peter Falk, Ginny Lorpa, and Jeff Goldblum is actually quite adorable. Really, they became a little team.
Yeah, and the character that Peter Falk presents is so weird and wonderful and bizarre, and he's not a bad guy, but at the same time he's not a good guy. He's a weird mix, and I love it because it's very different to pretty much anything I know of Peter Falk doing.
And the characters in the film are somewhat different as well. In the sense that Cyndi Lauper is desperately trying to latch onto different men in the story. She's desperately looking for someone to marry, which is an unusual characteristic for a female character, lead character in a film. Like, just throwing herself at men. Someone with such terrible self-esteem that she tries to shack up with a very young Steve Buscemi in a highly amusing scene, and then tries to catch. And I think it's fair to say the love interest develops with Jeff Goldblum.
Good old Jeff. Yeah.
And in amongst that, also a very brief affair with the ambassador of Spain, which is ruined by Jeff Goldblum's character. You made a note that it looks cheap. It really looks cheap. Like, fascinatingly, they shot this on location in Ecuador.
Okay.
I had to have a look at it because I'm like, surely they didn't send, Goldblum and Cyndi Lauper to Ecuador to film this shit. Probably they could put a second unit, right? They shot a couple of scenes in a village, and then they put the rest on the soundstage. Nope, they took them to Ecuador.
Yep, that's quite impressive.
Not too many major feature films were shot in Ecuador in the 80s, I can tell you. We could be a very short list. There'd be one, I think.
Just reading some of the trivia on IMDb, and we talked about the chemistry between Cyndi Lauper and Jeff Goldblum. And the first one is, in her memoir, Cyndi Lauper stated that she and Jeff Goldblum did not get along during production.
Goes to show sometimes it can happen, right? Good things can come out of chaos, right?
Exactly.
It didn't come through. On the There you go. This movie was described as romancing the Ghostbusters in the Temple of Doom. That's not. I actually it didn't come through on the screen. I thought they played off each other famously. Though, as I said, it's a little bit like you're a fan of professional wrestling. Occasionally, you'll see a match between two people. One might be either a non-wrestler or someone just fairly new to the game, and they will usually stick them in the ring with someone very experienced. So in the past, in the 90s, they might have stuck them in with a Bret Hart or a Steve Austin, or later years like a Hunter Hearst Helmsley, a Shawn Michaels, an Undertaker, guys who are just on their game workers, right? And the idea is that sticking the amateur with the guy who's a real pro, the pro can sort of be the general and kind of make sure everyone ends up looking really good. To the point where you're like, hey, that amateur guy can really wrestle. They really can't. They're just in there with somebody who makes them look really good. And I think that's kind of appropriate to this film here, in the sense that this is Cindy's first movie role. She's in there with an absolute pro, like Goldblum, who I think was on the top of his game by the late 80s. He'd come through The Fly, with a Big Chill, that sort of thing happening in his career. And I just think that being in there with an absolute pro like Jeff Goldblum just carried the film forward. I'm not saying Cindy was bad. I'm just saying that I think having the presence of such a strong actor put in such great form really carried it over the line. Yeah,
absolutely agree with you.
And I'm glad they cast Goldblum in this instead of Dan Aykroyd, who was the original choice.
Yeah, that would have been a weird movie. But I love me some Dan Aykroyd, so it would have been nice to see another movie in him in it. But yeah, just a weird choice. But anyway,
you make a good point. I would love to see if this film remade, personally, with a bit of budget behind it. I think it could be very, very funny and very successful.
I think it has the possibility to do that. I wonder if they would possibly end up just kind of leaning a bit more, kind of updating the psychic abilities a little bit more, and kind of going maybe it's aliens rather than just this somewhat nebulous ultimate power that is in a lost temple somewhere. I think that it's the kind of movie where, with the right team, with the right chemistry of actors, you could actually do something really quite fun, almost kind of on a level of just the entertainment value of The Mummy or Jungle Cruise that I watched last time, where it knows what it's trying to be and it nails it. If it could do that, I think it could be really good fun.
I think you make a good point there. This is a film a little bit like The Mummy was trying to be. The Mummy was kind of a throwback to that 1930s serial action adventure film, which Indiana Jones is probably the most famous modern example of it. The ones that George Lucas remembered from his childhood and tried to recreate. This is kind of an older style adventure comedy like that that just doesn't happen very often anymore. And you're right. If you could kind of harness that spirit that the first couple of Brendan Fraser Mummy films captured, then it could really work. As it is, like you, I kind of went in thinking this is going to be absolute crap. I found myself laughing a few times. I found myself kind of, again, like I said, enjoying the chemistry of the main characters. I enjoyed the costumes, believe it or not. Like, we were kind of paying great attention to Cyndi Lauper's costumes, going, that's ridiculous. What is she wearing? But it kind of works for her character here.
Exactly.
The bad guys are, mustache twirling, cape wearing, monocle wearing, dastardly, villains, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm now thinking, and I can see what would happen. We have this idea of, we've said what we'd like to see a remake done, but it would probably end up being Will Ferrell being loud over the top as the Jeff Goldblum character, and then get someone like Zooey Deschanel to partner up with him, and then we'd probably have Richard E. Grant as the main bad guy.
I would be 100% behind seeing Richard E. Grant as the bad guy in this. You know who they would probably get to do it? They'd probably cast Melissa McCarthy and probably drag her bloody husband Ben Falcone along for the ride. And it would be fucking awful.
Just stop inciting her name.
If you say her name 3 times in front of the mirror, she'll appear and pitch a new comedy sequel to Identity Thief. But you're right. It would be actually Grant would be fantastic as the bad guy in this. Just to see him incorporate
hamming it up,
like just like he did in Star Wars or in Loki. He's a treasure. Do you have the keys now? If you've said all you want to say about Vibes,
I have said all I want to say, and I'm taking this to a very different type of movie. We are following Julian Sands. We are going to one of my brother's favorite movies. We're going to Naked Lunch, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh God, I feel sick already.
See,
Naked Lunch is based on a it's a William S. Burroughs book, is it not?
Yes, I think it is. But for those who do not know,
if you are not
the William S. Burroughs, yes. After developing an addiction to the substance he uses to kill bugs, an exterminator accidentally kills his wife and becomes involved in a secret government plot being orchestrated by giant bugs in a port town in North Africa. Yep, that's what we're doing next week.
Does anybody know where I can get some weed? Because it is impossible to watch this film straight. Like, it has to be.
Hey,
William S. Burroughs was on all the drugs when he wrote this book, and the only time I used to live with a bunch of stoners back when I was in uni.
It is not currently streaming anywhere in Australia, legally.
Well, that's never stopped us before.
That's true.
If you want to tell us your film,
yep. If we we're still going to follow Julie Sands, and we're going to go to another somewhat famous film, Arachnophobia.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I have seen that one as well, and as an arachnophobic, that's going to be. I am very much looking forward to Naked Lunch now.
Those are your choices.
I think I can get a copy of Naked Lunch for us. I think I can get it for you. Naked Lunch is just one of those films that I have seen a long time ago, and I just kind of associate it with the guys I used to share a house with when I was in uni, who smoked inordinate, unnatural amounts of weed. Loved it very, very deeply because it's a drug film.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like in my head, it's constantly now associated forever with people sitting around in my living room smoking bongs. And there was some puppet work in here. But anyway, it's a David Cronenberg film. Lots of famous people in it. Plenty of places we can go afterwards.
Exactly. So I'm being very kind to you there.
Including RoboCop, because Peter Weller's in it.
Yeah. Now, where should we go?
I'm just glad you didn't say Warlock. I already had to watch that once this year.
Exactly. I knew that you'd already watched Jason.
Well, can I give a quick... Yes, it was for my other podcast, which I promoted enough. The throwback available now wherever good possibly right. I'd like to give a quick overview and spoiler-free look at Venom Carnage. There will be Carnage.
Yeah.
I just keep calling it Venom 2.
Just call it Venom 2 or Part 2.
I'm going to be real quick on this one because I know George hasn't seen it yet. Other than to say, sorry what I missed. I had breakfast. What did you have for breakfast? Don't leave us hanging like this! Venom, There Will Be Carnage is a sequel to the 2018 Venom film, which I believe is Shay's favorite superhero film.
Apparently, yes. And she is very excited for this sequel.
The first one is not my favorite superhero film. I remember thinking it was passable. It kind of held together, just mainly due to Tom Hardy, and ended with a giant CGI fight between two things that weren't really there. So, the same way most superhero films end, and this one wasn't particularly engaging. You know what? This one didn't suck, according to me.
Okay.
I really, really, really expected it to suck. I thought the trailers looked awful. I thought they must have used up all of their good ideas in the first one. And maybe they did, but because they kind of just did the same thing again. But it's pretty good. Like, I laughed more at this film than I do at most comedies. Like most comedies, people who know me, I'm very fussy about even stand-up comedy. Most comedies they just fall completely flat for me. This one actually made me laugh quite a number of times. I would like to call out that this is a PG-13 film. It's the American rating system, which means they get one fuck in a PG-13 film, and they used it beautifully in this film. It's the best use of a PG-13 fuck I can remember. I really enjoyed it. Woody Harrelson. It's kind of hard to take him seriously now, but I know he's an anti-vaxxer piece of shit. So sorry that if you're anti-vax, you can just get fucked. But he plays Woody Harrelson. You know what you're gonna get when you hire Woody. Naomi Harris.
From the trailer, it looks a little bit like he's bringing in a bit of his natural born Kiss character.
We wish. I mean, it's the PG-13. Imagine if they'd made that as a PG-13 movie. He swore at a gas station attendant. Gasp. So look, maybe if he's it's like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of his natural born killer's character. It's pretty tame. But it's fine. Michelle Williams is a highlight for me. I'm not a massive fan, but she did well in this. And I'll just say that I think the after credit scene, if anybody spoils that for you, just punch them in the nose, because it's a very, very good and very rewarding after credit scene. I think, again, the message for me here is that this film rests very heavily on the shoulders of the fact that they have got an extremely good actor playing the main role. And Tom Hardy, I think, might be one of the top actors in Hollywood at the moment, for me, in terms of what he can bring to the role. And I think it's really interesting to see that he can do comedy reasonably well in this film. He's not known for comedy. He's known for sort of bigger action type things. And he does comedy reasonably well. And he's so damn likable as an actor on screen. He's got so much charisma and presence, and you just kind of want to hang around with him the whole time and keep seeing more of him. And that kind of really carries the film through some of the flatter points. And if they had a lesser actor in that spot, I don't think it would hold up anywhere near as well. I think it would potentially fall under the weight of it. So it's a little bit like Momoa when he did Aquaman. Aquaman was such a weird sort of mess of different things, but Momoa just seemed to be having so much fun in the main role, and he sort of embodied it so well. You just kind of went with it and go, okay, I'm going to keep watching. It's silly, but I get it. Same sort of thing here with Tom Hardy. It's silly, but I like watching Tom Hardy. I'll keep watching it. And I kind of sat on the couch the other day and watched the whole thing. I'm like, did I just enjoy that? I think I did. It was very good. The only some interesting names. Stephen Graham popping up in this film was weird for me. For those who don't know that name, Stephen Graham, best known for playing Tommy in Snatch, to me. I think he's in. I don't know. He's in a lot of TV shows as well. Anyway, he was in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Pirates of the Caribbean. This is England, Boardwalk Empire. I think he was in as well. So anyway, I've seen Snatch so many times. He just is that guy from Snatch to me, and he plays an American in this film, and he pulls it off. But it was just a little odd to see him pop up. I'm like, I haven't seen him in something for ages. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you enjoyed the first one. You'll enjoy it. I'll be fascinated to hear your thoughts next week.
Okay, cool. All right, now I am going to talk about 2 new Netflix shows. First up, I'm going to talk about Arcane, which is based on the League of Legends video game. And instantly, I know that we are people who are very much waiting for the next big thing after superheroes. Now that they've got them right overall, they're the big money maker. Video games, we keep on proselytizing, are going to be the future, the next thing. And there's been medium to financial successes, at least. But nothing has been really sort of like out of the park. Hang on. Okay, there we go. So this one is an animated series, and you don't need to know anything about League of Legends to enjoy this. I certainly don't, but it has got me interested in League of Legends. And apparently the company Riot Games are now they've recently released a turn-based variation, like side story.
I think they're doing an MMO as well, based in that universe.
Yeah, I think they're doing a bit more work to try and get people into League of Legends, because it's one of those kind of lofted, lauded.
It's an esports game, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. But the synopsis here, it's set in utopian Piltover, the oppressed underground of Zon. The story follows the origins of 2 iconic League of Legends characters and the power that will tear them apart. The delicate balance between the rich city of Piltover and the seedy underbelly of Zorn, tensions between these city-states boil over with the creation of Hextech, a way for any person to control magical energy in Piltover and in Zorn. A new drug called Shimmer transforms humans in Monsters, the rivalry between the city's split families and friends as Arcane brings life to the relationships that shape some of the characters, including Vi, Jinx, Caitlin, Jace, and Victor. This is a fucking awesome show. This is really fucking good. It has got emotion. It is stunning animation. Absolutely stunning animation. And it has got Hayley Steinfeld as the voice of Vi. It's got Kevin Alejandro, which some people might recognize. He was in Arrow. He's been in True Blood. He was Lucifer. He's definitely one of those faces that you'd recognize. Don't really recognize the voice. The character of Victor is Harry Lloyd, who definitely ticks the box for you, Travis. He was Game of Thrones.
Oh, there you go. That's why I don't recognize him.
Yeah, but it's otherwise it's a lot of kind of known performers, whether live action or animation, and they all do a really, really good job. But legitimately, the pacing of this, the animation is so goddamn beautiful. It is really wonderful. The episodes aren't particularly long. There's 10 for the first season, and they're 40 minutes pretty much on the nose for a single one, and the ratings for them are high. Like episode 1 is 8.9, 9.8, 9.1, 9.3, 9.6, 9.5, 9.6. There's emotional development for each of the characters. I don't know anything about them, like I say, from the games. I love the way they do with these characters and how they breathe life into them. The one minor downside that I have is the kind of explanations, shall we say, that they have for why the character Jinx is crazy all over this character. Like, I feel like you could have done something a little bit more unique, but it's still very forgivable. It's still very well done, and I just really recommend people watch this because it's fucking cool.
I just saw it and I thought League of Legends, and I'm like, no, thank you, pass.
That's what I thought. But
and the only people I've seen say anything good about it are fans of a game, and hence I would be very skeptical about those scores on IMDb, because they're the only people who would be watching this would be people. The vast majority of people watching this would be people who play the games, and you know, from what I hear, it's if you like the game, you probably like the show. But I mean, I hear you saying it's good. I just don't want to watch it because I don't like that video game at all.
But you do approve of quality animation, and the visuals on this are really beautiful. If you are not interested after, I'd say even push it to 10 minutes, bounce.
I feel like my problem here is that because I'm going in, it's got that brand on the front that I don't like. It's going to be hard to get past it. But that's just me saying this is my ingoing bias. And it's a little bit like Wheel of Time. Like those books, my version of hell would be reading those books. And it's difficult to me to get past that with watching this show. It's probably quite good, and I'd like it to succeed. What I am thinking, looking at this go, is this to me is what the Borderlands conversion to movie or TV should have looked like. They've gone live action, I think.
Yeah,
from what I know about it.
Kate Blanchett and Jack
Black, Kevin Hart's in it. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. And I'm like, I don't know.
I'll tell you something though. This really, because of the short cinematics that they made for Overwatch, with all the characters involved with that, the way that they utilize the characters from League of Legends to tell a compelling story here, I want them to do that with Overwatch, because holy fuck, that would be amazing.
They should have done it 5 years ago. Why they didn't do it, I haven't got the foggiest idea. When that property was hot, and it's hung on a very, very long time, Overwatch, and we still have a year at least from Overwatch 2, I think. And let's just face it, Activision Blizzard, not exactly flavor of a month in the gaming world right now. So,
yeah, that's true.
Do you
That's
really
true.
want Activision Blizzard making content, for your streaming channel with Bobby Kotick at the chair refusing to step down? If you know, you know. If you don't, Google it.
Yeah,
So
that's fair. That's fair.
But you're right, and this is interesting. It would have. I'm thinking here, Borderlands would have looked good like this because I'm looking at some of the animation pictures here. Just the cell shading animation of the game Borderlands, I think would look amazing if it looked like this.
Just another on the animation. This is top quality animation that looks beautiful in freeze frame. It looks awesome when they're doing these dramatic close-up, just conversation pieces, but it also looks really good as action, and it puts What If to fucking shame.
Again, I'm
Absolutely
with you on that
to
one.
shame.
The What If animation just looked cheap from the go.
Yeah.
For Disney, the House of Mouse to have cheaped out on the animation like that. I don't understand what it is.
100%.
I don't know why they did it. It
Yeah,
could have been so
I
much
don't
more.
know.
What point should they save the story for a new game? Cutscenes, sell games.
That's a fair point.
Have you an opinion on that? You reckon?
I think that this is the thing that I have with, like, we've got this most expensive TV show ever produced coming out of The Last of Us. I don't see the point. Personally, I don't see the point because the story was so compelling. It's what won The Last of Us so much praise and just love when it first came out. I'm not a fan of it, just don't like the gameplay, but the story, it sounds really interesting and compelling. They were able to deliver that in a video game. All they're doing is just kind of like what Disney do with, let's do a live action version of one of our animated movies. They're doing it because they just want to double dip and put the modern flair on it. That's what they are doing with The Last of Us.
So the search on just says the House of Mouse sounds like a Nazi-themed strip club, and I would be first in line for that joint. I don't know what about that says Nazis, but I like where your head's at.
Welcome to the House of Mouse, where all of your pleasures are sinful.
We have ways of getting you off.
We have ways of making you cock.
You will sit and you will put dollar bills in the juice room. It writes itself.
On topic.
Next season on Netflix.
But yeah, this is just another real feather in the cap for the Netflix animation division. They are really doing some great stuff over there. Very excited for what they do next. But that's all I really wanted to say on Arcane, because I just
it's an interesting development, isn't it? Because people seem to be really digging this. I'm hearing lots of people saying how good it is, and it makes you wonder, like, if these guys do it, like, and that's Riot Games, the next cab off the rank probably would be got to be Epic Games, right? Why isn't there? Surely there'll be a Fortnite series for those idiots who play that piece of shit game.
Yeah, there'd probably be Fortnite. I wouldn't be surprised if someone somewhere is trying to create a Minecraft series. Minecraft Dungeons, they set it in that, because Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop RPGs have never been more popular than they are now. Just that, people would love it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it interesting? Minecraft is kind of more of an educational tool now than a game. I don't know.
I don't know anymore.
I used to work with somebody. A couple of years ago whose kid used to they had Minecraft, the education edition, and there was an education, and they would be they'd be playing Minecraft at school, and there is a Minecraft movie apparently on IMDb. The malevolent Ender Dragon sets out on a path of destruction, prompting a young girl and a group of unlikely adventurers to set out to save the overworld. And so it looks like it's in development at the moment. So, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But they made Battleship films, so you know.
Again, don't say its name. Now, before we get too long in the tooth, I do also want to talk about my other Netflix show, and that is another Korean show called Hellbound. Not Hellhound, like I've actually put up there. It is Hellbound, and it's fucking cool, man. It's when you look at the trailer, you kind of think, oh, it's another monster invade a city thing from Korea. They do that really well. Same old. This, no, it's throwing these things at you, but doing other things to the side that are really fucking cool. So the premise of it is it's set in not our world. It's set in a parallel world where people have started receiving the voice of God. This kind of ghostly visage just appears, pushing through its huge glowing eyes and mouth, and it just says your name, and it says, you will go to hell in X amount of days. And then time goes on, and then when that time comes, these three ghost-like, fluid, oily-like creatures just appear, wreck shit, beat ever-living shit out of you to the point of death, and then incinerate you, and you are gone. And that's essentially the starting point for this show. And the season is 6 episodes, and the first 3 episodes follow two characters who are where is he? I haven't got them in bloody order. But it's a kind of down on his luck detective and a lawyer who is they are both trying to work out what's actually happening here, because there's this new religion that's building up called New Truth, and they're saying that it is God's wrath and it's God's way of kind of trying to redirect mankind to be more redemptive and noble and honorable. And then the second half jumps forwards in time a little bit, and New Truth has essentially become the prevalent religion on Earth. And what does that effect have on society now that over 50% of the world very much believe in heaven, hell, and at the very least, the fear of what happens to their soul after death? And it's fucking cool. It's really fucking cool. I love this shit because, yes, it's got CGI monsters in it, but they really don't use them too much. It's all about the relationships and the emotional turmoil that having this proclamation comes through. And I'll say my one spoiler for the second half of the show is who gets a proclamation. And it's right at the beginning of episode 3. The new people that we follow through this second half of the season. A mother who has literally just given birth. Sneaks a video camera in to film the baby because the husband is not able to go. And as she goes into the room, she captures this proclamation of this giant godlike head proclaiming to a 6-hour-old baby that in 3 days they are bound for hell. And obviously New Truth have risen up because they have, their manifesto essentially, have never put in the idea of original sin, which is the reason why so many people have flocked to it, because they believe that yes, you are innocent at birth, and it is only through actions throughout your life that can condemn your soul. You are not condemned straight away. And suddenly, of course, if this video comes out of a mere hours-old baby, what would that fucking do? And it takes you on a roller coaster, and it's wonderful. So good. So fucking good.
Are you watching it dubbed or subtitled?
I have watched twice already. I watched dubbed and sub, and so far both are good. I would presume the subtitles are probably more accurate to what the story representation is based off of Korean, because that's what they're doing. The audio, the dubbed still doesn't follow what the sub is, so the sub is probably more accurate, but even then, it's still very good, and I don't think much is being lost in translation.
Sir John says he's watched the great anime show Mitsudomo. It's about triplet sisters who are competitive with each other and everything all the time. Looking it up, it looks like animated or Japanese animation to me, so that sounds like a more in Jaws' ballpark than mine. Where are you watching it, Sir John? I can't say I've heard of it. Looks like there's only 3 episodes so far. This is a very old show, by the way. About 10 years old.
I will check it out, John.
Yes, Hellbound seems to have mixed reviews amongst everyone else. It has a 66 on Metacritic, a 6 or so on IMDb, and a meta user score of 5.2. So it seems to split its audience a bit.
I think that's largely because it's not what you expect. I think I always use the Donnie Darko trailer as a good example of they didn't know how to sell this to Western audiences, and the Donnie Darko trailer was it sold it as like a slasher movie, and it's very obvious not in any conceivable way. This is a very different kind of thing. Even the poster, it's kind of just these 3 domineering monsters coming over with a burning corpse. It's like, okay, yeah, the symbology is there, but not the actual meaning and the questions that it posits. Korea is very good at bringing all the social commentary and social consciousness into their movies, and I always approve of movies doing that and TV shows doing that in an intelligent way, and I think this really does it. This very much is my wheelhouse of real world meets supernatural. It's what my books are about. It's that merging of the two. What if there was basically undeniable proof that there is a higher power, etc., etc. That's what I write about. That's what's here.
A little bit like
really
that.
nice to see that.
The Jason Reitman, the Robert Redford film we watched is our Chain movie. Probably the last one we did before you had to take your hiatus. Yeah, because that was similar sort of tone in that, in the sense that they discovered, not strictly speaking, heaven or hell, but they discovered an afterlife.
Yeah, it's kind of just skirting on that kind of line, but it's really good. I would encourage you to at least watch the first episode, Trav, because I think you could like it a lot.
Potentially, yep. It does sound like interesting. The monsters supernatural side of thing, not really what I normally like, but that's not 100%. Not 100% of the time. So I would attempt to give it a go, time allowing, because I'm gonna have to work my ass off to get through Naked Lunch this week. With all those bongs I'm gonna have to smoke to watch it.
Before you know it, you'll have watched it 17 times.
I mean, I still won't remember what it's about.
No one ever does. That's not the point of Naked Lunch.
True.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, or?
I'd just like to give a quick shout out. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I watched an episode of the latest season of, I'm not sure if it's the new season or it was the last season I just missed, of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, yeah.
I know it was a new season a couple of years ago, but this was season 2, and I'm not sure. I might have lost lost track of exactly where we're at in the scheme of things, because I know it's on Netflix now. And it is they do a movie called Avalanche. And those who don't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is, it's a comedy series where it's set on a spaceship where people on the spaceship are forced to watch bad movies, and then they study them. They study their mind, and it's been running since the late 80s, I think, and they just revived it a couple of years ago. Yeah, I think I have actually. It was might have been a previous season rather than the new one. And they did a film called Avalanche, which is a Rock Hudson disaster film from the 70s.
Oh God!
If you like me, I think I got a couple episodes in, and sort of went, maybe not. Yeah, I thought it was from season 1. Gosh, I ain't going back a few years now. Worth a look if you haven't actually given it a try. If you like stupid comedy and smart ass remarks, so basically the most of the show is the film being shown in the theater with the silhouettes of the characters from the TV show at the bottom of the screen making smart ass remarks. Are you a fan?
I enjoy it as long as it's an enjoyable movie to dissect. Like, I watched when it got kind of redone for Netflix, I watched the first season of that, and I'd say overall it was good. But because so much of their content relies on content of other things and what movies they can get rights to do and that sort of stuff, it's like, okay, well, let's just see how it goes. And sometimes you can tell that it's like, oh yeah, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. We haven't got quite enough. But
it's a bit like, did you never came to any of the Cinema Fiasco sessions?
Yeah, I did.
Did you? What did you see? Can't remember.
Houseboat Horror, man.
Houseboat Horror. What a classic that is.
Yeah.
And it's
the sweaters.
Cinema Fiasco is a Melbourne comedy show. It does something fairly similar. They'll show a bad movie in a cinema, and they'll have comedians in the audience with microphones taking the piss out of the film live. But it's the same sort of thing as what you just sort of mentioned there. Occasionally, it just depends on how the film goes. Like sometimes, the Houseboat Horror, which is an Australian horror film, they just knock it out of the park because it's just the right length. And sometimes, like, they bite off more than they can chew. I remember they showed a film once called The Swarm, which is about a swarm of killer bees that go around killing people. And it's just the first hour or so was very funny, but they just kind of ran out of steam. It's just so long and so bad that no amount of jokes can save it. So you make a good point. MST3 Geek does depend very heavily on the quality of the film. But if you haven't had a look at it, or if you're looking for something to watch on Netflix that's a bit stupid, I kind of forgot it was there. And I'm kind of glad I went back to it.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you don't need to.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Now, I think that brings.
You're right. It's brainless. It's brainless comedy.
Yeah. Yes, I think that brings us to the end of the show, and from the sounds of it, probably going to lose the internet soon because thunder and lightning, ever so frightening, determined to just knock me off the air. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this week. We just to review everything that we touched on. My God, we talked about the Eternals. We talked about Hawkeye. I just caught up on Wheel of Time episode 4 briefly. We had Let There Be Carnage, Arcane, Hellbound, and we finished up with Mystery Science Theater 3000. Next week, our chain review of the week is going to be Naked Lunch, or if Trav can't get hold of it, he's going to have to suffer.
I have it. I have it. I have a copy. It's currently being uploaded to our central location of choice.
Okay. So we will be doing Naked Lunch next week, as well as probably catching up the next episode or two, depending on what happens for Hawkeye. I am going to actually do something. Well, I've done something that I've not done before. I played Halo Infinite multiplayer, and I will talk about that next week.
There you go. Somebody look for, it's the first time he's played a multiplayer game in a long time, so.
But this is before the main game has released, so maybe my curse is broken.
Maybe.
I don't think I can kill Halo.
Apparently the battle pass is pretty bad.
Yeah, the game itself is fun. Anyway, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and all of that stuff. And if you
thank you, Sir John, for tuning in and asking
questions
and all the craziness.
Only a couple of episodes are made which they talk about local town gossip and rumors of metaphysical, and it's called. What's this?
Gossip.
This is a message from Sir John. If you like bizarre comedy, there is a podcast with only a couple of episodes ever made, which they talk about local gossip and rumors often goes metaphysical. Gossip mongers, it's called. Right, I'm gonna make a note of that.
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening, for watching. If you tuned in, tune in next week for see what we get up to next.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.